are you leaving the door open to voting for Joe Biden if it's between the two of them?
I will say my door is completely shut to voting for Donald Trump. What I will say too, though, is I think everybody should vote for Joe Biden if they want our democracy to survive.
Those are strong words from former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. Importantly, Trump White House aide, now saying that you cannot allow this guy to get back in office. And she was around him. You know, she worked for Mark Meadows, and she saw quite a bit that she has since released, including in her book. We're going to get to that. But as we launch towards this, she's apparently not ready to be like, no, I like Joe Biden, which is understandable. She's a conservative Republican, but holding out hope that someone else on the Republican side will beat Donald Trump. I want you all to remember, by the way, that she testified before the House January 6th committee, talking about what Donald Trump and his cabal of ghouls did on that particular day. Back in September, she told CNN's Jake Tapper that she believes Trump is, quote, the most grave threat we will face to our democracy in our lifetime and potentially in American history. I think that is certainly arguable for history in the next 20 or 30 years. Buckle up, because it could get worse. But she also, and just to throw this out as one more thing, in the waning days of the Trump presidency, she alleged that her former boss, Mark Meadows, destroyed documents, including by burning so many files in his home fireplace that his wife complained about the bonfire smell on his suits, which sounds like something out of Arrested Development at that point. Why was he so eager to burn these that he would take the documents home and then throw them wholesale in the fire? What was he trying to cover up for? Just add that to the long list of mysteries that we hopefully, but probably will never get answers for. Jared, what do you make of this?
Prime examples here, because people like to complain, and I get it. It's something to complain about. How people will vote for someone, hold their nose and vote for someone. But if you don't like that, which I don't either, we need to try to come to some kind of conclusion where we have two reputable candidates that actually would be doing the things they're saying. They're honest about their approach, because there's so many fraudsters and con men that run for office, and we know that they're lying to us. Everyone says it, and then we have to vote for one of them. So when Cassidy Hutchinson says, I'm deaf, the door is completely closed to Trump, but of course she doesn't support Joe Biden. She didn't before, or she didn't, I don't believe, supporting Democrats before that either. So sometimes something is big enough, like the saving democracy, that's the first step you got to take, because if you don't save that part, we don't have anything else. Who else? Maybe she likes Mitt Romney back when he ran. Maybe she liked, maybe she likes Nikki Haley. Or any other crazy person like Vivek Ramaswamy. Who knows? But maybe she likes another Republican. But first, we have to make sure that the guy who's actually not a Republican, who's just this crazy man who wants to be a dictator, because I think at least maybe 35% of Republicans still want a democracy. So probably it's one of those things where we have to get past the first hurdle of a guy that wants to completely transform the country and put it just under his wing. I'm just going to say that's the most serious thing for right now. After that, we can maybe try and reset and get to folks that are actually doing something for us.
Yeah, and I largely agree. And she has this, like, almost from my perspective, admirable position where she feels no need and isn't going to be like boosting Joe Biden. That's not what it's about. I mean, you can also say that it kind of reveals that a lot of what the Republicans who are actually running things say they believe about Joe Biden is made up and obviously exaggerated to delude the rubes. They know that Joe Biden is not going to massively change the economic status quo. He didn't even really change the immigration status quo. And so they're not actually as scared of him becoming president as they pretend to be. And that the cultural stuff that he might actually be very different than Trump on doesn't really matter that much to them anyway. So I bet a lot more Republicans actually feel like Cassidy Hutchinson than feel free to admit. But she's got the same thing that Melania's former aide has going on, which is she has been burned by the Trumps. There's now a gulf between them, and she's freed to say what so many obviously believe, but they still believe their bread is buttered by being with the Trumps, so they can't actually reveal it.
What do you think her plan is? I'm sorry to get it. Maybe this wasn't part of your thought. What's Cassidy Hutchinson's plan? As you mentioned, Melania Trump's former assistant. She's on The View. She's on MSNBC. She's damn near a Democrat. So what's the next thing?
I'm forgetting her name, by the way.
Man, I'm forgetting it too now that it's contagious.
Dad brain.
Yeah. So, but she had a smirk and all that. Like, what's the next step? Because we know what the Republican Party is going to think of her. And honestly, I don't think Democrats should be like, oh yeah, totally. She was a part of it. Just because she finally did the right thing, it means something. So congratulations, cool. I like that. But where's next for her?
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of a few things. I mean, cynically, I would say trying to get the conservative spot on The View or perhaps be a CNN contributor. But I would say that while I like a lot of the things that she says in her testimony, I don't think she has the communication skills to do those things. But it could just be that she's trying to sell her book. It could just be that she actually believes this stuff. And, it is easy seeing all of these people that are in power in media and government, and those things have way more crossover than they used to. These people generally are horrified by the prospect that they would ever be on the outs from it, as if there's not a whole world that you can go into. I mean, I'm not even saying you have to be that on the outs. You could become a lobbyist. You could work on a corporate board or something. She could work with, more moderate Republicans. There's all sorts of paths forward. So I don't know her heart, but my guess would be some combination of those things.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.